Have you ever felt like life keeps knocking the wind out of you? Not because of huge disasters, but because of the little things, the text left unanswered, the small mistakes, the careless comments that replay in your head for days? If you've ever found yourself constantly overthinking, drained by emotions, or sabotaging your own peace, then Daniel Chidiac's Stop Letting Everything Affect You is exactly the map you need. This book isn't about becoming cold or shutting down. It's about reclaiming your energy, setting boundaries, and finally living free of emotional chaos. Today, let's dive deep, chapter by chapter, into this transformative guide. Daniel Chidiac opens with a familiar truth. Many of us are trapped in an endless cycle of emotional reactivity. We let small things ruin our days, take everything personally, and live like prisoners of our own thoughts. But this isn't a flaw. It's a habit of mind that can be unlearned. The goal of this book is to help us regain control, not by suppressing feelings, but by choosing what deserves our energy. The stage is set. We are about to learn how to protect our peace, stop overthinking, and finally detach from emotional chaos. Part 1. Why you let everything affect you. Chapter 1. The root of the problem. Why you feel everything so deeply. Have you ever wondered why you seem to feel things more strongly than those around you? A small comment can weigh on you for days, while others shrug it off in seconds. This isn't weakness, it's sensitivity. Roughly 1 in 5 people fall into the category of being highly sensitive, with nervous systems more reactive to external stimuli. Add to that childhood experiences where you may have learned to hyperanalyze moods and reactions, and you develop a habit of overabsorbing emotions. The challenge lies not in feeling deeply, but in not knowing how to regulate it. You don't just feel your own emotions, you absorb the moods of everyone in the room. This leads to cycles of overthinking, replaying conversations, worrying you said something wrong, or assuming silence means rejection. The cost is immense. Exhaustion, guilt for caring too much, and often physical symptoms like headaches or anxiety. When you feel everything so deeply, you end up carrying a burden that was never yours to hold. This is the first crack in the foundation of peace. Chapter 2. The problem isn't just people, it's everything. It's not always toxic people who drain you. Sometimes it's ordinary life. Think of mornings where your phone buzzes with endless notifications, each demanding a piece of your energy. Or those days when a spilled coffee becomes the last straw, sending you into a spiral of self-criticism. On the surface, these are small annoyances. But when your mental load is already maxed out, even the smallest stressor feels unbearable. Psychologists call this cognitive overload, when the brain's capacity to process stress and decisions is exceeded. Imagine your mind as a messy room. At first, you tolerate the clutter, but eventually, one extra item makes it feel suffocating. The same happens internally. Unprocessed emotions pile up until trivial inconveniences unlock hidden frustrations and pain from the past. Add to this the constant comparisons and pressures from society and social media, and it's easy to see why life feels like one long, exhausting sprint. Chapter 3. The Thought Prison. How your mind creates mental loops. Your mind convinces you that if you just think long enough, you'll find peace. In reality, overthinking fuels what Daniel Chidiac calls the anxiety loop. You replay conversations, rehearse arguments that will never happen, and catastrophize about futures that will never arrive. The more you think, the more powerless you feel. This happens because of the brain's negativity bias. We are wired to focus more on potential threats than on positives, an evolutionary survival mechanism that now misfires in daily life. Instead of helping, it chains us to pain, making us cling to familiar cycles of suffering. Over time, thoughts begin to feel like facts. If you believe you're unworthy, your brain will highlight every rejection while ignoring proof of your value. Soon, you mistake your thoughts for reality itself. This is the thought prison, and most people don't even realize they're locked inside. Chapter 4. The Bigger Perspective. What if you zoomed out? What if you saw your struggles not from the narrow view of your mind, but from a cosmic perspective? Imagine an outsider looking at Earth, marveling at oceans, mountains, and human life, only to see us wasting precious time worrying about whether someone texted back. In the vastness of existence, our daily stresses shrink into insignificance. Chidiac reminds us of the biblical story of Job. Despite losing everything, was shown the vastness of creation to remind him of his limited perspective. The lesson isn't to dismiss pain, but to remember how small many of our concerns are when seen against the backdrop of life itself. When you take this bigger perspective, you realize stress robs you of the present moment. Life is too short to surrender entire weeks or months to overthinking what, in a year's time, won't matter. Part 1: Solutions. Here, Chidiac shifts from awareness to practice, offering ways to reclaim peace. The witness practice: instead of saying, "I am angry," say, "I notice anger arising." This helps you separate your identity from temporary feelings. Attention restoration: create mental sanctuaries, quiet, device-free breaks where your mind can reset and recover. Thought containment: designate a specific worry time each day to write down concerns so they don't dominate every moment. Thought diffusion: visualize intrusive thoughts as clouds drifting by or leaves floating down a stream, reminding you they're temporary. Pattern interrupts: break loops with grounding exercises, counting backwards, naming objects in the room, or shifting focus deliberately. These aren't one-time fixes, but practices to train your brain into healthier patterns. Over time, they turn emotional reactivity into emotional resilience. Part 2: You're letting life control you. Chapter 5: The illusion of control. Control is comforting, but it's an illusion. We want every day to unfold as planned, yet life constantly interrupts us. Stress isn't caused by events themselves, but by the gap between expectation and reality. When you spill your coffee or get stuck in traffic, it's not the event, it's the loss of control that makes you spiral. Studies prove that people who believe they have control over even small aspects of their lives are happier, healthier, and more resilient. The secret is not clinging to total control, but focusing on what you can influence, your response. Chapter 6: The connection between control, rejection, and the desire to win. Why do we obsess after rejection? Because the brain registers rejection as physical pain. It threatens our primal need to belong. When rejected, we scramble to reclaim control by overanalyzing, blaming ourselves, or chasing validation. This pursuit of control releases dopamine when we win back approval or succeed, but the high is temporary. Worse, it keeps us tied to those who hurt us because our worth depends on their recognition. Chidiac warns, true freedom comes only when we detach our value from other people's acceptance. Part 2: Solutions. Control inventory. List your stressors, then separate what you can and cannot control. Direct energy only toward what's in your influence. Emotional circuit breaker. Pause in moments of rejection, breathe, ground yourself, and ask, what do I truly need right now? Values alignment. Instead of chasing approval, act according to your deepest values. This builds internal stability that no rejection can shake. Part 3: The weight you carry, boundaries and detachment. Chapter 7: The hidden cost of carrying everyone's weight. Many of us pride ourselves on being there for others. But when caring crosses into overcaring, it drains us instead of fulfilling us. Carrying everyone's emotional burdens leaves you resentful, exhausted, and unseen. You can support others, but their happiness is not your responsibility. If you believe it is, you'll collapse under the weight of expectations. Chapter 8: The power of guilt and the struggle to set boundaries. Why don't people set boundaries? Guilt. We fear saying no makes us selfish. But the truth is, boundaries aren't walls, they're filters. They protect your peace while still allowing healthy connection. Without boundaries, manipulation thrives. With them, respect grows. Chapter 9: The trap of over-explaining and letting go. Too often we justify every decision, desperate to be understood. But over-explaining robs you of freedom. You don't need to defend your growth to people committed to misunderstanding you. Chidiac encourages embracing silence, letting your actions speak without endless justifications. Letting go is a mark of strength, not selfishness. Part 3 Solutions. Boundary clarity. Define what behaviors you will no longer tolerate and communicate them firmly. Detachment with care. Learn to support people without absorbing their emotions. The silence practice. Stop over-explaining. Trust your choices without seeking constant approval. When applied, these practices help you protect your energy, break free from manipulation, and create space to live authentically. Part 4. The Breaking Point, Recognition and Realization. Chapter 10. Hidden Manipulation. Recognizing when others make you the problem. One of the most exhausting experiences for sensitive people is dealing with manipulation. Manipulative individuals often twist situations so that you end up feeling guilty, ashamed, or responsible for their behavior. For example, when someone lashes out and then blames you for making them angry, they're deflecting responsibility and placing the weight of their emotions on your shoulders. Over time, this pattern can make you doubt your own perception of reality. You begin to wonder, am I really the problem? Chidiac emphasizes the importance of learning to spot these tactics, gaslighting, guilt-tripping, or emotional blackmail, and realizing that you're not responsible for how others choose to act. Once you identify these behaviors, you reclaim your sense of self-worth. Recognizing manipulation is the first step toward freedom, because you stop internalizing blame that never belonged to you in the first place. Chapter 11. The last time they'll make you feel this way. Knowing when to walk away. There comes a point where recognition is not enough. You must take action. Sometimes, the healthiest choice is to walk away from people who repeatedly hurt you, no matter how much history you share. Walking away doesn't mean you don't care. It means you finally care enough about yourself to stop tolerating disrespect. Chidiac explains that this is one of the hardest yet most liberating steps in emotional growth. People often fear abandonment or conflict, but staying in a toxic dynamic is far more damaging in the long run. By walking away, you set a new standard for how others are allowed to treat you. That act of courage becomes the line in the sand. Never again. Chapter 12. The Grief of Growth. Mourning relationships left behind. Letting go of harmful relationships doesn't end with relief. It often begins with grief. You grieve not only the person, but also the version of yourself that tolerated mistreatment, the time lost, and the dreams you once attached to that relationship. This grief is natural. It signals that you valued connection deeply, even if the connection was flawed. Instead of resisting grief, Chidiac encourages us to allow it space. Cry if you must, journal about the loss, or talk it through with someone supportive. Grieving honors the depth of your feelings, but you must also remember that this pain is temporary. It is the doorway to transformation. Chapter 13. The Emergence of Your Authentic Self. When you release relationships that suffocate you, something remarkable happens. Your authentic self begins to surface. This is the version of you that doesn't bend to please others, doesn't silence itself out of fear, and doesn't hide behind masks. It's a process of rediscovery. You start noticing what actually excites you, what you truly value, and what kind of connections make you feel alive instead of drained. This chapter paints authenticity as liberation. You stop needing validation because you finally recognize your own worth. The freedom to simply be yourself is one of the greatest gifts of emotional detachment. Chapter 14. The Empty Space, Death and Rebirth of Identity. But after letting go, there is often an uncomfortable emptiness. Think of it like cleaning out a cluttered room. Once the junk is gone, the empty space can feel strange, even lonely. Yet this emptiness is not a void to fear. It's the fertile ground for a new identity. Many people rush to fill it with distractions, rebound relationships, or busyness. Chidiac cautions against this. Instead, embrace the emptiness. Sit with it. Allow yourself to reimagine who you are without the burdens you've carried. This is the rebirth of identity. It's in this space of nothingness that you create a foundation for a healthier, freer, and truer version of yourself. Part 4 Solutions. Recognize manipulation patterns. Keep a journal of interactions to identify recurring tactics. Walk away with strength. Make walking away a conscious, empowered decision, not a reactive escape. Honor grief. Permit yourself to mourn without shame. Embrace the empty space. Use solitude as a season of rebirth, not something to escape from. Part 5. Beyond the surface, the different ideas that are just as important. Chapter 15. You can do it. This chapter is about empowerment. Chidiac reminds us that the ability to change our inner world isn't reserved for a select few. It's available to everyone. The belief that I can't change is often a self-fulfilling prophecy. To break it, you must adopt the mindset that growth is possible, even if it feels slow and difficult. Small, consistent shifts in thought and behavior add up over time. Believing in your own capacity for change is the first step toward lasting transformation. Chapter 16. The Ego's Silent Trickery. How your mind keeps you small. The ego doesn't always appear as arrogance. It often disguises itself as fear, doubt, or excuses. Your ego whispers, "You're not good enough. Stay safe. Don't try, or you'll fail." This voice convinces you to settle for less, to avoid risks, and to stay in familiar cycles of pain because they feel comfortable. Chidiac explains that growth begins when you see the ego's trickery for what it is, self-preservation at the expense of expansion. Once you recognize it, you can challenge it, step outside your comfort zone, and refuse to let fear dictate your life. Part 6. Ways to Freedom. Chapter 17. What they didn't tell you about forgiveness. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. Many think it means excusing someone's actions or inviting them back into your life. Chidiac reframes forgiveness as an act of self-liberation. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. The longer you hold anger, the longer they occupy your mental space. Forgiveness is not about them. It's about you. It's a way of releasing their grip on your peace, cutting the cord that ties you to pain. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It means moving forward unchained. Chapter 18. Beyond Happiness. Finding Inner Peace. We chase happiness as if it's a permanent state, but happiness is fleeting. It depends on circumstances, good news, a win, or praise. Inner peace, on the other hand, is stable and independent of external highs and lows. Peace is built by aligning with your values, embracing detachment, and refusing to let every disruption disturb you. Inner peace doesn't eliminate struggle, but it gives you a steady foundation through it. The message is clear. Stop chasing happiness. Start cultivating peace. Part 7. The Light. Chapter 19. Finding Light in Life's Journey. After moving through struggle, manipulation, boundaries, forgiveness, and peace, what remains is light. This light is not the absence of challenges, but the ability to see beauty even amid hardship. Gratitude becomes the lens that reveals the hidden blessings of life. Pausing to appreciate small joys, a conversation, a sunset, a quiet morning, reminds us that there is always light to be found. Chidiac emphasizes presence. When you are fully in the moment, not lost in the past or worrying about the future, life reveals its richness. The light is always there. It is a matter of noticing it. Chapter 20. Go and Live. The book closes with a powerful call to action. Stop postponing your life. Too many people wait for the right moment, when stress disappears, when people approve, when circumstances are perfect. But that moment never comes. The invitation here is to live now. Live unapologetically. Live freely. Stop letting everything affect you. And instead, let life itself be the canvas on which you create joy, purpose, and peace. Daniel Chidiac's "Stop Letting Everything Affect You" is more than advice. It's a practical guide to emotional freedom. The book walks us through why we get trapped in overthinking, how to set boundaries, how to recognize manipulation, and how to embrace authentic living. The message is clear. You don't have to stop caring. You just have to stop letting everything consume you. Protect your peace, detach without guilt, and live the life you're meant to live.